Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK. Back at you with another video here to break down the 9-game NBA main slate on Friday, TGIF, everyone. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is DK. I make daily videos and live stream for NBA, NFL slates on Draftkings, make videos for NBA Top Shot, NFL All Day, also PrizePicks, which has gone really, really well for us over the last couple of days. We've been putting out some PrizePicks videos. Went 3 for 3 last night, went 3 for 4 tonight. So if you guys do play on PrizePicks, make sure to check out those videos. If you're unable to watch the YouTube videos, I do upload on Apple Podcasts, premium content. I offer that on patreon.com. Now is a great time, start of the month. I cover the NBA, cover the NFL, main, and the showdown slates. And the sponsor of this video is PrizePicks. So if you have not heard of PrizePicks, guys, it's a player prop site. Well, basically, they have every single sport you can think of. They have esports, soccer, football, PGA, MMA, college basketball, and obviously NBA. And how it works is you pick 2 to 5 player props, and you can win up to 10x your money. You can take over under on points for NBA, assists, rebounds, 3-pointers made, rebounds plus points plus assists. You can take over under on fantasy points. A ton of different ways you can play. You can mix and match sports as well. So if you guys want to give it a try, make sure to sign up and use my code DKDFS for 100% match up to $100. Okay, so before we get into players and the prices for this 9-game slate, we can take a look back lineup here from tonight. So looks like every single time I play someone above 10K now, I'm just going to get, 30 fantasy points from them. I'm sure you guys saw what happened last night with James Harden. I had a very good chance at winning $20,000, and he goes for 29 fantasy points. And Steph Curry, I can't really complain because that's his floor, right? He has a low floor. So, yeah. And he had a 4-game when I played him. And then Anthony Edwards, too. I didn't want to play him, but, it's just kind of the way it worked out for my roster. So, yeah, he was once again disappointing. It's Taurean Prince. He is the alpha, right? He is their best player. Anthony Edwards and Cat take a backseat to the absolute dust of Taurean Prince. Just the greatest player of all time. I could not believe my eyes looking at my phone. I'm like, all right. If people chase the Taurean Prince game and get rewarded, I'm going to be so upset. I'm just looking at Taurean Prince coming in and just making everything. Start of the game, 8 of 10 shooting, just couldn't miss. Unbelievable. But, so the rest of my lineup went with a lot of the Spurs guys. The Derek White faders got pretty bailed out. He was on pace for probably at least 40. The game blew out. And Popovich, I swear, he is so quick to wave the white flag. He is always, if it's like a 15-point game going into the fourth quarter, Popovich, we're emptying the bench. Dust off Wisekamp and Kaycock and let him play the whole fourth quarter. He gives up so early. It was literally I think a 19-point game with 2 minutes left in the third, and Derek White got pulled and never came back. Cool Popovich. But Trey Jones was a smash. Thad Young was a smash. They were both pretty chalky. Vassell, okay, but again, lost minutes there in the blowout. Anthony Davis, relatively low-owned, was lower-owned in the lower stakes. He was a absolute smash, 63 fantasy points. Corey Joseph was fine. I expected a little bit more from him in the spot without Cade Cunningham, but he was okay. And then again, my 2 letdowns, Ant-Man and Steph Curry. So that was it for the look back. But we had a pretty solid night all around for Patreon members. So congrats to everyone on your big nights over there. And this is the winning lineup in high stakes, the court side. Corey Joseph, Mitchell, Vassell, Thad Young, Siakam, Reggie Jackson, DeMar DeRozan, and Anthony Davis. Okay, so let's get into this 9-gamer, guys. And real quick, if you do enjoy the YouTube videos and the live stream, just make sure to hit that like button. Try to aim for 100 likes. Subscribe if you haven't already. So Cleveland and Charlotte's the first game here. So we know Garland's out. We know Markkanen is out. So let's start with the bigs. Allen and Mobley, both kind of secondary plays for me. Mobley had a really big game last game, but that was with Jared Allen foul trouble. So I think I like the matchup for him, but neither really stand out to me. The guy that intrigues me here is Kevin Love. Now, you're not getting him at a super cheap price point, but if we get close to 30 minutes from him, I think he's a really good play. The only issue is there's a chance his minutes get limited. Against Detroit, he only played 19. So he's one where If Kevin Love plays 20 minutes, he's definitely not going to get you there. If he plays 30 minutes, there's a really good chance he's going to have a pretty good game. So I like Kevin Love. I think more for tournaments, though. Now, Cedi Osman, we saw him continue to start, but start at the 3. And obviously his floor was much lower. He went from 12 assists to 1 assist. So if Cedi starts again, like he's fine, but I liked him more when he's starting at the point. Now, we did see Brandon Goodwin move into the starting lineup and play 32 minutes. So assuming he starts again, I think he's a fair value play. I love the matchup here. He almost had a triple-double last game. I think that's kind of an outlier. But if we're going to get around 30 minutes from a point guard going up against Charlotte, cheap point guard, yeah, I'm good with it. And then Rajon Rondo, 3.3K, will play the backup and probably get 15 to 20 minutes. I think he's an interesting contrarian play, like a decent pivot off of, I think, a somewhat popular Goodwin. And then I'll mention Okoro. Like, he's probably going to get around 30 minutes. Not a super high usage guy, but he's relatively cheap. I'm moving on to Charlotte. So we're going to keep an eye on Gordon Hayward news. He is currently questionable. It's pretty big because Gordon Hayward is in. It makes everyone a little bit riskier. If Gordon Hayward's out, so last game we saw PJ Washington actually start and play 42 minutes. So, like, if there's no Hayward and PJ starts, then I kind of like him here for value. But obviously, we'll have to monitor the starting lineup. And I think it would make sense actually to start PJ against a bigger front court like Cleveland, right? So we'll keep an eye on that. LaMelo Ball, 9.6. Obviously, we know the ceiling's there. But this is just a tricky team because there's games where Rozier takes over. There's games where Bridges takes over. So, like, I have interest in LaMelo. I think more for tournament. Same thing with Bridges. Same thing with Rozier. When they're close to fully healthy, unless someone's, like, really underpriced, it's hard for me to feel confident about anyone. Kelly Oubre at 5.2, played 34 minutes. Again, if there's no Gordon Hayward, I think he looks better too. And then Mason Plumlee, 5.1 against a big Cleveland front court. Probably sees 25 to 30 minutes, but more of a secondary option there. That's probably it. Cody Martin, we saw move to the bench and only play 16 minutes, so not a ton of interest in going to him. Boston and Detroit. So Boston basically a fully healthy team. It is a good matchup. But I don't know if there's one player that stands out. Like Tatum, 10.6 feels a little bit overpriced. I think I'd rather go to Brown at 9.1. But he is not a must either. So the two main guys are playable. Robert Williams, again, I like the matchup here for against the Pistons, but the price point just feels about right. Horford at 5.3, has seen over 30 minutes last couple of games. So his minutes have been all over the place recently. Marcus Smart at 5.7, probably your safest bet for his price. A guy that should play, 30 to 34 minutes and a guy that can kind of do everything for the team. But that's probably it. I don't know if I get to the likes of like Schroeder or Josh Richardson. Again, the minutes have been way down in Schroeder. Jay Rich at 3.7, did play 31 minutes last game. I guess he would probably be the one value guy I would consider on the Boston side. Moving on to Detroit. So kind of hoping Cade Cunningham plays in this one because I really don't want to deal with the Pistons guard value again. But if Cade Cunningham is out, Jeremy Grant, Saddiq Bey get a little bit of a usage bump. We saw a really big game from Saddiq Bey at like no ownership tonight. So if there's no Cade Cunningham, he's obviously in play, but might be a little bit overowned based on last game. Again, Grant at 7K. Both him and Saddiq Bey are solid options. As far as the bigs go, I don't know if I'm going to touch this gross group of Stewart, Callio, and Trey Lyles. The guards, so we saw Corey Joseph start at the point. Assuming if he starts again at the point, I think he's probably the guy I like the best. We saw Magruder move in the starting lineup at only 3.4K, so keep an eye on that. And then the likes of like Frank Jackson, Killian Hayes, if Cade Cunningham's out, become a little bit more in play. Chicago and Indiana, so keep an eye on Levine news. He played tonight, but is questionable going into the game tomorrow. I guess he's dealing with back spasm, so that's something to keep an eye on. If he's out, DeRozan and Vooch obviously get a usage bump, and it's a really good matchup against the Pacers. And then the likes of like Kobe White and Io become much, much more in play. So Levine news is pretty big. If Levine is in, it's kind of my same breakdown of the main three guys. The DeRozan, Vooch, Levine all look pretty good, but more tournament options. And then, Io would still be a solid option. He's been a little bit up and down, though, this year. And Javonte Green at 3.5, he continues to play about mid-20s minutes. I think he's a fair value play, assuming he continues to start. On the Indiana side, so they're still pretty thin. No Sabonis, no Brogdon, no Jackson, no Turner, no Goga, no Warren, still obviously no McConnell. Brissett is questionable, and Goga is questionable. So start with Karis LeVert at 8.4K. We probably see mid-30s minutes from him. He should be the highest usage player on this team, so I think he's a solid tournament play. Probably don't go there in a cash game setting. Duarte at 5.4 should see around 30 minutes. I think he's just more, again, secondary play. Kind of the same thing with Holiday and Craig. I think it was Craig that had a big game last game. Yeah. but that was more of an outlier performance. Now, if there's no Goga and there's no Brissett, then Terry Taylor's most likely starting at the 5, and he's going to become a really, really good value. And then I don't even know who to go to at the backup 5. Like, maybe they just go undersized Torrey Craig. Like, I don't know what they would do if both Goga and Brissett are out in this one. Now, like, if Goga and Brissett are both in and Goga starts at the 5, then I think he looks pretty good, assuming no limitations. So that's somewhat important. And then the likes of like Jeremy Lamb, Lance Stevenson, these are guys that are, good point per minute guys on the court, but the minutes are not necessarily secure for either of them. We've seen Dwayne Washington play relatively well off the bench at 3.7K, but I think there's probably value plays I'm going to feel better about in later games. Atlanta and Toronto. So keep an eye on John Collins news. He left the game late. So if I had to guess, I would say he doesn't play tomorrow, but obviously we'll monitor it. Trae Young had a pretty big game, went for 60 fantasy points. I think he's a solid GPP play. I don't know if I ever really consider Trae in cash unless he's super, super cheap. Now, if Collins is out, this is the tricky part. I'm not sure what they're going to do. They could do a lot of different things. They can move Gallinari in the starting lineup. They can dust off someone like a TLC maybe and throw him in the starting lineup. I don't think they would start Okongwu and Capella together. So yeah, a lot of different ways they could go about this. So it's going to be important to monitor the starting lineup there if Collins is out. But I think, Gallinari is probably the guy that gets the biggest bump. Like maybe goes from like low 20s minutes to around 30 if there's no Collins. That's just my best guess. But Atlanta's really been spreading out the minutes of these secondary options. So that's been a little bit annoying for DFS purposes. So yeah, keep an eye on Collins news. If he's in, I don't know if there's anything that stands out. If he's out, then we'll just keep an eye on the starting lineup. Moving on to Toronto. So Toronto basically a fully healthy team, but again, they're going to run like a 6-man rotation. So Siakam and Van Fleet in a good matchup are going to play huge minutes. I like both. I think they're both very, very safe. Siakam had the big game tonight, but yeah, Van Fleet has similar ceiling. OG and Barnes, more secondary options. I think I'd rather spend up a little bit more for the safety of Siakam and Van Fleet. And then Gary Trent finally came back down to earth tonight. His game log's not updated yet, but that's the risk of Gary Trent, right? He's a guy that does have upside, but has to hit shots to get value. And then the likes of like Boucher and Achua, their minutes are not secure, more just tournament dart throws. All right, Houston and San Antonio, so two teams that play very little defense. Christian Wood's at the top at 8-7. I like the matchup for him. We'll keep an eye on status of some of those Spurs, but should play mid-30s minutes and has been their highest usage player so far this season. And then Kevin Porter Jr. should play low 30s minutes, a guy that can kind of stuff the stat sheet. So the two main guys for the Rockets, I think, look pretty good. The secondary options, more just tournament plays. Jayshawn Tate, minutes have not been secure on him, but I think he's fine for GPPs. Again, Jalen Green, he's had a couple big games of late, but still has a low floor. He is really, really cheap, so I guess he looks okay at only 4.3. Gordon at 4.3 as well. Again, probably sees around 30 minutes, but he's basically been getting like 15 fantasy points every single game. Kind of been an afterthought in this offense. And then the guys off the bench, Garrison Matthews, he's played well, 32, 20, and 31. But again, last year games, he is score independent. KJ Martin's 3.8. I think we see around 20 minutes from him. It's just like a lot of these value guys for the Rockets look kind of similar. And then my boy Sengun, they did play him a little bit alongside Christian Wood last game, which is good to see. So I'm not sure if they do it here against the Spurs, just because the Spurs are not really a big front court. But like at least we know that's possible, right? And again, with Sengun, just the minutes have not been there. He's a really good point per minute guy. So I think you can go to him as a tournament dart thrower, maybe hope that they use him alongside Wood. But other than that, he'll probably just play the backup 5. Moving on to San Antonio. So Murray, Pirtle, McDermott all missed the game tonight. We'll keep an eye on their status. Going to be pretty important. If they all miss again, then Derek White's going to be my favorite option. He'll be the highest usage player at 6.4K. Was on pace for easily 40 plus tonight, and then the game blew out. And then, if Trey Jones starts again, I think he'd be a good value. We saw Vassell and Keldon both start. I think they're both solid options. Lonnie Walker off the bench, I have some interest in. Eubanks, I think, would be a solid play at only 3.3K. Him and Thad Young would most likely split the center minutes. Again, if Thad Young starts again at the 5, he's going to look good. So there's actually a lot to like here from the Spurs, assuming that everyone that missed the game tonight misses again. So we'll keep an eye on that news. Pelicans and Nuggets. So Jonas Valanciunas 8.5K doesn't really stand out to me. Ingram at 8.2. Probably the spend up I like the best in the Pelicans. Should play mid-30s minutes, and I don't think he gets much ownership. Keep an eye on Josh Hart, too. He's currently questionable. Now, what I want to do, I want to keep an eye on what the Pelicans do here at the starting lineup because Hernan Gomez is in the health and safety protocol. So, like, do they continue to start Hayes and JV together? And do they just, kind of alternate them? Like, if JV leaves the court, then they're going to have one of JV or Hayes on the court at all times. That would make me like Jackson Hayes a little bit more if he starts alongside Jonas Valanciunas. So we'll see on that. But that's probably it for me on the Pelicans side. On the Nuggets side, so we do have Jokic back, 12.4K. I think he's a good spend up, just a super high floor, high ceiling. Right, but blowout here. But if he plays mid-30s minutes, he can definitely break the slate. So like Jokic, Barton, Gordon, more secondary plays. If I had to pick between the two, would be Barton. I don't know if I get to the Valley here for Denver, though, with Nikola Jokic coming back. All right, a few games left, Brooklyn and Utah. So I would like to congratulate in advance James Harden for 70 fantasy points tomorrow. Kyrie Irving 10-3 feels a little bit pricey. So I don't know if I go there. Patty Mills at 5-6, I'll pass on. We saw Claxton go for 50 fantasy points last game. If he starts again, which I think he does, he's a fair value play, but that is definitely an outlier performance from him. Day'Ron Sharpsay's been out of the rotation. We've been seeing Blake Griffin get the backup 5 run. He's 3.6K. I guess he's fine. You're not going to get super excited about playing Blake Griffin, obviously, but if he's going to play the backup 5, sure. And then James Johnson's been getting relatively consistent minutes off the bench. I think he's a fair play as well at 3.8. On the Utah side, so a lot of question marks here as well. We have no Gobert, but Whiteside questionable, Clarkson questionable, and then Mitchell is back. So Donovan Mitchell, there's no limitations. Keep an eye on this. I think he's a really good play. Like 8.4 feels too cheap if he's not going to be limited, so that's going to look good. With Mitchell back, Conley and Bogdanovich more secondary plays. And then, if Whiteside and Clarkson are both out again, then keep an eye on the starting lineup. Last game, they did start as Ibuki and played him 22 minutes. He'd be a fair value play. They could go small with like Royce O'Neal. They have Rudy Gay that would probably get more run too. So that's going to be pretty important to keep an eye on. Like Pascal could see a little bit small ball 5 as well. So, yeah, Whiteside Clarkson is going to be pretty big for Utah. Philadelphia and Dallas, so Joel Embiid, 12.3. I mean, this guy's just been crushing it, so I have no issue paying that price point for him. Tobias Maxey, more secondary plays. Seth Curry is questionable. Keep an eye on that. If he misses, probably more minutes for the likes of like Thibault, Niang, Danny Green. Danny Green started last game, played 27 minutes. You were never, ever going to get excited about Danny Green, but if he starts again at close to mid-price, sure, I think it's fine. Niang played 24 minutes last game. Again, it's fine. And Thibault, 3-4, good defender, probably sees over 30 minutes. So those three, even though they're not high-usage guys, I think are all playable if Seth Curry is out. And on the Dallas side, Luka Doncic, well, he's really, really been playing well of late. So I know Philadelphia's been, a decent defensive team this year, but I have no issue going to Luka at 11-9. I think he looks pretty solid. Brunson, 6'5", more of a secondary play. Same with Dorian Finney-Smith's going to play huge minutes. Reggie Bullock's been playing really well of late. His price has also come up. I think he's a fine value play, but might be a little bit over-owned. I've said it the last couple times, and he continues to get there. He also went for 43 last game. Kind of reminds me of this Torian Prince situation. Like, I don't really trust paying a premium for Reggie Bullock, but I guess he's fine. Now, Maxi Kleber, 4-4. We saw 42 minutes from him, so 37 in regulation. I think he's a decent value. The only downside is he's only center eligible, and I don't know if they go to him against Embiid. Like, they might have to give more run to, like, Dwight Powell and Marquise Chris. So, like, Dwight Powell, Chris, I think both viable options, might get a little bit more run to try to just throw bodies at Embiid. So I think those guys are viable GPP plays. And then finally, OKC in Portland. So we just saw this game a couple of nights ago. It was pretty low scoring, but yeah, no Shea. I think Giddey's still in play at 7-7. Should play low 30s minutes. A guy that will do everything for the team. Almost had a triple-double last game. Dort at 6'4" has been playing really well of late. 47, 35, and 46 fantasy points. So I think I still prefer Giddey, but Dort's totally fine. Baisley, 4.4. I think we get probably around 30 minutes, which I think makes him a decent value play. The minutes have slowly been ticking up on him without Shea. So if he's going to play around 30 minutes, I do think that's a little bit too cheap. And then as far as the other value plays go, Trey Mann saw big minutes. He's a low usage guy, but I think he's viable for salary relief. Kenrich Williams at 3.9 should see mid-20s minutes. I actually think he's a fair value play. And then the gross group of like Muscala, Favors, and Diakate probably split the center position. I don't know if I'm going to go to any of those guys. And finally, Portland. So we do have news that Larry Nance might be coming back, so that would kind of hurt some of these secondary plays, probably make Nurkic a little bit riskier. CJ3 had a bad game last game, but we know he's going to be a pretty high usage player in this offense. Nurkic, I like the spot. Again, he was let down in the spot a couple games ago, but no issue going back to the well. I just think he'd be a little bit, his minutes would be more risk if Larry Nance comes back. Norman Powell had a really good game last game, but he's scoring dependent, so feels like a chase if you go there. Simons at 6'6". Again, him and CJ are going to do a lot of the ball handling. So I think he's fine. Covington had almost a double-double with no points, 9 assists, 13 rebounds, a crazy stat line. I think he's, again, more of a secondary play. Would feel a little bit better about him, though, if Larry Nance is out. And then I'm not going to touch the value here for Portland. So, yeah, guys, that's going to do it for the video. If you have been enjoying the YouTube content, just make sure to hit that like button. Again, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Be on the lookout for a PrizePicks video coming tomorrow. But thanks again, guys. Have a great one, and I will see you in the next video.